Hello, ELIC 30. This is Michael, and we are in How to Be Human, an Autistic Man's Guide to Life by Jory Fleming. We are continuing in Chapter 3, and we are on page 68. Near the bottom, we're actually starting this last paragraph. I don't really remember what it felt like. I remember the sense that something was wrong about this situation. The environment went from stable to unstable, and it would be that way until Mom came back. I feel like I was hyper aware of what was missing in the home environment. Mom was the centerpiece of that environment. When Mom left, it was upsetting, not just because I missed Mom and my attachment to Mom, but because the home environment was, to my mind, no longer in a stable state without her. It didn't matter why she was gone or how long. It was as if the middle had been removed, and I didn't have anything else to put in the middle, so I just stared at the door until the middle came back. One of the favorite family stories is how I would throw a tantrum anytime I was in a car and the sunlight filtered through the window and touched me. One time we were driving from Indiana, I think, to Florida. They tried to cover up all the windows so no sun would enter the vehicle. But inevitably, a ray slipped through and I would start screaming. It wasn't a fun car ride, but they didn't turn the car around and they kept going to our destination. I have absolutely zero recollection of the whole incident. My family usually retells the story in a group at a restaurant, and it's always a contrast because I have usually been in a car about 15 minutes earlier when it was sunny out and I was fine. It's just interesting to think, oh yeah, that was me, and I don't remember, which is great for me because apparently it wouldn't have been a good memory. Another place that was terrible for me was the mall. I was going to have a tantrum no matter what happened. I did not have any fun at the mall, and it was a lot to process. I do have some recollection of going to the mall with my mom and little sister, Lauren, for back-to-school clothes shopping. I had the most trouble in the corners with crowds. I had difficulty concentrating and hearing if Mom was trying to tell me something. But I'm not particularly interested in how I behaved in my childhood versus now, unless somebody wants to know. It's not like I think about how much have I progressed, or how has autism changed for me as an experience in my day-to-day life up to now. It's just not something I think about at all. LW. What do you think helped you start processing and saving memories? Helped you to start processing and saving memories? Jory. Age 11 or 12 would be the earliest I start to get more concrete memories, as opposed to things that happened in high frequency or very random specific instances like that rocking horse. I remember particular activities that were done in repetition. They stood out. It also helped when I was in an environment where there were almost no other stressors or new stimuli. I always had homeschool in the breakfast room, right outside the kitchen. It was the exact same routine every day, the same chair, the same table. The books were exactly where I had left them the day before. There was an absurd level of consistency. That was helpful. It was all in balance. There was a window overlooking the bird feeder. To start the school day, I would see if there were any birds out, watch for birds, and count birds for a few minutes. I remember the order that school typically went. Phonics was typically first, followed by math. I hated both of those, but I liked order of events, or the fact that I would often take little breaks and watch birds. I remember hanging out with James, playing video games in our upstairs living room, or going outside on the driveway and riding scooters. The memory of it is not specific, as in, oh, I remember exactly what James looked like in that instance. It's just general. Not until much later, when I was a teenager, did I have a more or less uninterrupted sequence of events. If you were to ask me about an event from college, I might need some prompting if it wasn't significant, but I probably would recall details about the event, as opposed to the period when I was homeschooled, which has a very low probability of any specific event coming out. For instance, when I was younger, I apparently had a train game, and I would make a road like a train track. I would set up all the little pieces in a very specific way, and would get mad if anybody moved them. Everybody else in my family remembers it, but for me, it is just not there. I have no memory of said game. I have no memory of getting mad about its being moved. No memory of the room where I played that game, because I always played it in the same spot. It's like a gaping hole, and most of my memories are like that. Sometimes things from childhood will come up. Someone will ask, "Don't you know this?" And it will be a childhood playground rhyme that everybody else knows. I have to say, I don't know that rhyme. I don't know the games that kids do with their hands, like patty cake. It's interesting because childhood is a really important thing for people, very positive in many cases. But the fact that I have massive holes doesn't make what I do remember less positive. Birds versus video games. Excuse me, that was wrong. Birds and video games. LW. What are the connections between birds and video games? Jory. For me, video games are like somebody's crafted a world that you get to be an active participant in. The games give you a sense of freedom because you don't really know what's going to come next. Birds are even more unpredictable. They exist in a world, but they are independent actors, and they do a lot of unexpected things. When you are observing a bird, you feel almost like a participant in its world. When you see a twitch of its head, you wonder, is he looking for food? Or did he spy a friend in a tree or a predator? You can both feel connected to the bird's sense of freedom, of being able to just fly off, and also get that connection to the narrative and the interaction that the bird is having in a place that you can observe but are still separate from. It's similar with video games. You're interacting with a world. It's a little bit more directly crafted, but you're still interacting with a world. And you can think about what you like about that story. But the story has the capacity to surprise you and to take you in a new direction. Both are also visually appealing. A video game has artists to make the world come alive and be magical or mysterious, or however they want to design it. And birds are visually appealing as well. Even the drab birds are visually appealing and interesting because, evolutionarily speaking, they're drab so they don't get eaten. There's always beauty, even if it's just various shades of a neutral tone. And that's the end of chapter 3.